friends. Hope you are all doing well today. It's Eileen Thompson. Welcome back to the Faith Driven Leader podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. And, today we're going to talk about the end of the year and the beginning of the new year. This is one of my favorite times of year. I love the Christmas holidays. I love to decorate. At one point, I actually had 10 Christmas trees in my house. I don't have 10 Christmas trees anymore. I only have 2, maybe 3. I think there's actually 3. But I've calmed down my Christmas tree decorating over the years. But what I love about this time of year is that it is such an amazing opportunity for us to step back, take some time. Usually our meeting schedules slow down a little bit this time of year. Folks are taking time off, and it's a good opportunity for us to take some time off and take some time away and really step back and think about what has been great about the past year, what's been maybe not so great about the past year, and how do we want to move into the new year with intentionality? How do we listen for where God wants us to go, and how do we leverage what we can learn from the prior year, from what God has done in us and through us to help us to prepare for and plan for and walk into the next year with intentionality. So I thought it would be fun to share some of the practices and approaches that I've used over the years. I've tried lots of different approaches over the years for how to really take advantage of this time of year and go through this process of reflecting on the previous year and planning for the following year. So I'll share some of those approaches today. And I want to tell you up front that we have created a free downloadable planning tool that will help you go through a process like this. It'll help you look back at last year, inviting the Lord into those moments and those exercises to look back over the past year and also look ahead to the next year. So I hope that you will head over to the show notes and download that free guide after you've had to listen to this conversation, or even before you've had to listen to this conversation. First thing I want to say is, as you go into this exercise, if you are married, I really want to encourage you to do this work on your own and also to do this work with your spouse. Rich and I take a quarterly retreat, but the retreat we do at the end of the year is a little different. It's a little bit more involved. It's a little bit more focused on looking back and looking forward at a bigger picture. We do that looking back and looking forward exercise every quarter, but at the end of the year, it takes on a different meaning because it's a much bigger time span that we're looking at. So, and in fact, actually, for those of you with kids, when we had the kids at home, all of our kids are grown and out of the house, but we always did an end of year retreat with them too. Usually we would focus on celebrating the things that were great about the past year. We would have some kind of an activity to learn something about ourselves and about each other. Maybe it was like a personality assessment that we had everybody take, and then we would talk about it, or a book or an article that we would read and everybody would talk about it. And then we would make sure to play and have fun together and talk about what we were dreaming for the next year. So a lot of these activities are things that you can do on your own. You can do them with your spouse, and you can do them with your kids or with your family. So let's kind of talk through a couple of categories that I always include. No matter which way I end up doing these activities, I always cover a couple of very specific categories or areas or topic areas that I want to spend time thinking through. The first one is that we always start this time. I always start this activity, this year-end activity, by reflecting over the past year. And I think many times we can focus on all the things we didn't get done that we wanted to get done, but I like to start with, what can we celebrate? What were some of the big wins of the year? What were some of the big accomplishments? What were some of the surprises? What were the things that I didn't plan for, but man, this really cool thing happened, or this opportunity opened up that I didn't expect. And I always want to think about those wins and celebrations from a business and a work standpoint, for sure, but also from a marriage and relationship kind of point of view perspective. I want to think about family, kind of extended family, the kids and the extended family. Financially, what were some of the celebrations or the surprises or the wins? And then kind of just general growth, spiritual growth, physical growth, emotional growth, whatever that might look like. So I want to do a really thorough look at what were all the great things that we can celebrate, what were the wins, what were the accomplishments. And I want to encourage you to take the time to write these things down. It's so important to actually capture what were those accomplishments, what are the things that we can be most proud of, what are the things that we're most excited about, because as you do it, it's going to start reminding you of other things. And really, as you're doing it, I know what I'm doing in the midst of that is thanking God for all that He did in me and through me and around me in the past year. This should be a pretty long list by the time you're done. I will confess that there are times when I kind of forget what happened last February. So I'll use my calendar or my photo stream to help jog my memory. What were some of the things that were going on in my life back then? What were some of the things that we were working on? Or sometimes we'll look at our bank account logs to say, what were we spending money on back then in those months? And we really take the time to really capture all of those things. This is probably one of the more time consuming parts of this activity. And it feels at some point like it's, well, why are we spending all this time looking at the past? But when we do that, it calls to mind all of the goodness that happened throughout the year, the things that both the things we planned for and the things we didn't plan for, how God showed up for us, who He was for us in those times, and what He did in our lives and in our businesses and in our families. So, reflecting on the past year. The next piece, once we've done that reflection, is really to start dreaming about next year. And I always start this by asking myself and asking God, who do you want me to be? Who do I want to be this year? What are some of the characteristics of my leadership or my motherhood or being a wife? What are the characteristics that you want to grow in me? What do I want to grow in myself? Both personally as well as when it comes to the business, right? Or my career or my organization or my leadership. So I want to ask God into helping me to start to dream about where I might want to be going forward into the next year. I ask myself the question too, what would I love to be celebrating at the end of next year? So when I get to this process again next year, what are the things I hope I will be celebrating? I want to use those prompts as ways to start to dream about where I might go next year. So again, I want to think about work and business and leadership, as well as marriage and relationships, personal growth, family, financial, all of those things are things that we want to dream about. The important piece at this step is, again, we want to write all these things down, but I don't know about you, but the hardest part of this for me is not to edit or second guess what ideas are coming. And that's challenging for me because I quickly go into, well, can I do it? Is it reasonable? Is it realistic? Do I have the funds? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the right connections? Versus just saying, I'm going to let this phase be about dreaming and capturing all of the big picture ideas. And once I've done that, then I can move into kind of capturing some more specific goals. So that's really the next step, is really capturing some specific goals. Now, for me, big picture goals are very motivating. And I think I want to encourage you to consider what is most motivating to you. For some of us, it's the big picture goals. For some of us, it's more tactical, in process goals. Capture some of those. Look through all the things that God did in the past year and all the accomplishments and the wins and the celebrations from the past year. Look through here, all the dreams of ideas that we've got, and capture into, take those down and kind of boil them down into, I would say, 3 to 5 goals. And those 3 to 5 goals should be a mix of realistic and stretching. They should be a mix of some of those categories we talked about, like work and business and career and leadership, as well as family, marriage, relationship, personal growth, financial growth, whatever those happen to be for you. We want to start to boil them down. I do this by really kind of praying through the list of ideas that came up when I was dreaming and asking the Lord to move me, to show me something. Sometimes I put a little distance between the dreaming and the capturing of the goals, a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks in between those, to give myself time to listen for where the Lord might be prompting me, to look for opportunities that seem like they are leading to help me set some specific types of goals. So once I've captured those big picture goals, the next step then is to translate those big picture goals into some quarterly goals and really write those down so that I've gone from reflecting on the past year to dreaming some big dreams to funneling those down into some specific goals for the year, and then funneling those down into, okay, what do I need to do in the next 3 months and the 3 months after that? And I will plan them out for all 4 quarters, recognizing I'm going to revisit those as we go through the year. So that's a big picture synopsis of this year-end reflection and planning process. Like I said, if you want to go through a process like this, I really encourage you to do it. It's so, so helpful and grounding. And I have created a year-end reflection New Year planning guide. You can head to the show notes and download it from there. I really want to encourage you to carve out some time with the Lord, some time on your own, and some time with your spouse to go through this process and start thinking about how you want your next year to look. How can you be intentional about the next year? How can you be grateful and thankful for the things that have come, conscious and aware of how God is showing up in your life and in your leadership and in your career and in your business, and how he wants to walk with you going into the next year. Well, hey, I hope you've enjoyed this little overview, and I hope you'll head over to the show notes to download the free guide. I'll look forward to talking with you again soon on the next episode of The Faith Driven Leader. Happy New Year.